Okay. Anyway, welcome to our Tulsa Audubon Society meeting. I'm going to start out with our recorder's report from Paul Rubitsky. And actually quite a few things that have been reported that are sort of late or unusual or early. Some sandhill cranes at Woodward Park, somewhat, 14 of them must have been a flock flying over. Peregrine falcon at the Broken Arrow High School. It was seeing a leech. Are you guys here? Leeches? Okay. A northern shrike at the Leonard Sod Farms. Marsh wren at Mohawk. Yellow-bellied sapsucker at Oxley. An alder flycatcher at Oxley. Warbling vireo, black and white warbler. Baltimore oriole. I'm sure that's late. Yellow warbler, Wilson's warbler. There's been a common tern hanging around Lake Yohola, too, the last few days. Summer tanager, a parula, and a blue grosbeak at the Williams Center Green. That was just this morning. So let's see. The couple other things to talk about are I'm now taking orders for our annual birdseed sale. I've got some printed copies in the back, so if you want to do your order tonight, you can go ahead and fill it out. You can either give me a check or I can take a credit card right here so we can get that taken care of. The pickup will be November 4th, but of course, if that's not doesn't work for you, we'll make other arrangements. But yeah.
November 4th, what time?
I'm sorry?
What time on the 4th?
From 10 to 4, it's a Sunday. But it's at my house down basically 111th and Memorial area. But if you can't make it, then it's just you can make other arrangements with me to come get it afterwards when it's convenient for you. So anyway, that's in the back there. So come see me after the meeting if you'd like to get your order in. The deadline is this Sunday, so we have a very short time to get the orders in. I was having some real trouble with our supplier getting prices, but finally got that resolved just a day or two ago, and so I've got a week now or less than a week to get the order in. So if you do want to get some, just come see me and get your order. Or you can also do it online on the website. Jeff, are you here?
I'm here.
You have to come up here, though.
I heard that.
And you can talk into that.
I need where's my walk-up music? Before I get to what he's talking about, 2 months from yesterday, December 15th, is the Tulsa Christmas bird count. So get that on your calendar, more to follow. The other thing is I've been working with Rob Ripma at Saberwing Nature Tours, putting together a trip to Panama. It'll be September 26th or October 5th of next year. So you got almost a year to think about it and get your money together. 4 nights at the Canopy Lodge and 4 nights at the Canopy Tower. Which I've been to Canopy Tower, and it's a fabulous birding area. It's an old converted U.S. Air Force radar station. And somewhere up there's a champagne cork on one of the beams that never came down because we were having a good time. But 4 days there and 4 days at the Canopy Lodge, which is west and kind of up in the hills, so very different birds. There's a lot of birds, a lot of good birds, good guides and good accommodations. We're not moving every night. We will be 4 nights at each place and then 1 night at the airport hotel before we come back. So there's flyers like this on the back table back there. Pick one up. And I'll be around for a while if you have questions, and I guess that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Julia, do you want to come talk about outreach?
Okay, our outreach program is underway. That is preparing programs for young people in schools and related young persons venues, and for civic organizations. And we're getting off the mark this week for a fall break nature camp. I see there are some faces here that weren't here last time, And if you have any interest in helping us with going into schools, either being a lead teacher or an assistant, this would be a great time to let me know about. Is there anyone here who would, who has not signed up already, who'd be interested in being a speaker for civic organizations about birds or Audubon? You're provided the materials. You don't have to make up the speech yourself. Or available to go in to schools or for school groups. Is there anyone who hasn't signed up already? Okay, well, just to let you know, our first one is this week at a fall nature camp, and Donna Horton, who's a very experienced presenter for Oxley, is going to do that, and some new people will be observing and assisting to help us get trained, so there will be others to do. So that's the word.
Okay, thank you. Like Julia said, we just need some warm bodies, basically. You don't have to think about it. You know, you'll have the program and everything ready to go. Also, we are now accepting applications for our birding camp scholarship for teenagers, basically from 14 through 17 or 18, just depending on the specific camp. We already have one applicant, but we can probably do one other one. So if you know of a young person in your life who is passionate about birds, these are birding camps, not just nature camps. So it wouldn't be appropriate for someone who doesn't already have a significant interest in birds. This would be the wrong thing for them. But if they are interested in birds, this is the place to send them, and it's really it's a life-changing event when they go to this thing, because they get to connect with other young people who are just as passionate as they are, and learn they're not the only one. Like when you're here in Oklahoma, if you're interested seriously in bird watching, you're probably the only one in your class, in your high school, in your town who has that interest. Whereas in other parts of the country, it's much more prevalent. So being able to connect with those other people around the country, they'll make some friends for life if they go to this. So if you know anybody in your life, if you have a child, grandchild, somebody else you know, encourage them to go fill out an application, which is and just go to the website and it's there. Are there any other announcements I'm forgetting to make? Yes. Oh, yes, Gail. Thank you.
Tonight we're having coffee. We're going to try having coffee, and Julia brought a coffee pot and some things. So if you want some coffee, that's back there. Our refreshments tonight were provided by Zach Poland, Mary Jackson, and Maria Brittle. I forgot to bring the sign-up sheet, but we do need one more person for next month. So if you feel moved to bring refreshments for next month, let me know. Back on the back tables, I have a lot of owls. I borrowed those from Pat Seibert, and then Mary Jackson has a collection that she brought too. And among those items are 4 things that actually feature a saw-whet owl. So go, when you get your cookies or refreshments, look to see if you can find the 4 things on the tables that are actually saw-whet owls. I think that's all.
And you dressed appropriately too. Okay, if there's no other announcements, let's see. So coming up on the schedule is it says the 19th, but the real deadline for birdseed orders is the 22nd. And also this weekend is the OOS fall meeting in Edmond. So if you haven't registered for that, that's a fun thing to do. On October 30th, which is a Tuesday, I'm leading an after-work bird walk at Ray Harrell Nature Center. So just be a short walk around the trail there at you don't have to get up at the crack of dawn to come see birds. And again, November 4th is the bird seed pickup. November 10th is Saturday morning birders. And also right in there is Election Day, so be sure to get out and vote. Then our next general meeting is November 20th, and that's with Dr. Doug Wood. And he's going to be speaking about, where was he? Sweden, okay. I don't know where Svalbard is. Northern Norway. Okay, okay. I didn't know where that was. So, oh, is Cindy here? Yeah, that's where you are.
He's from Oslo.
Oslo. Isn't he go up there? I thought that sounds familiar.
That's a place we've heard.
That's a place. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's what's coming up. So if there's no other announcements, Cheryl, would you introduce our speaker?
Glad to see so many people here tonight. We finally get to hear about Oklahoma's saw-whet owls. We tried this last winter and the garden center closed and it was too icy to come over from Tahlequah. So we were going to do it earlier and we had a little bit of rearrangement. But Dr. Mia Revels, biology professor at Northeastern State University, is going to share information with us tonight. Dr. Revels is well known for her work on Swainson's warblers. And about 4 years ago, she switched areas of interest to saw-whet owls. So she and her graduate students have been conducting research for the past 3 years at least, and she's going to share that information with us. Dr. Revels is also past president of the Oklahoma Ornithological Society. And I can tell you she's also really a fun person to go watch woodcocks with. Well, when I went, you did. So
Yeah,
please
yeah.
welcome Dr. Mia Revels.
Thanks, you guys, for inviting me to come here tonight. It turns out that tonight is the second night of this year's field season for Northern Saw-whet Owls in Northeastern, over in Tahlequah. So they just got started mostly with training, and we have a field crew this year. So we're going to have the same people out night after night. They can get a good routine going and less stress on the owls. I've got my phone on, which I normally don't do, but if they catch an owl, they'll call me or text me a picture. So if my phone rings, it may or may not be an exciting event. We'll see. So the first thing I'm going to do is tell you a little bit, for those of you who don't know, about the history of Northern Saw-whet owls in Oklahoma, which is a pretty spotty one. And I'll go through it, pretty quickly, but if you guys have questions on that part, either while I'm talking about it or, if you want to ask them at the end, then just save them. Then a lot of them have interesting stories, some of them not so much. So can we dim the lights? More? Yeah, so adorable, right? So they're the cutest owls. And they really are that cute, and most of the time when people see them, they're like, oh, look, a baby owl. No, that's a full-grown adult. The young owls have very different plumage. I don't have a picture of it in here because, we're not going to see those here in Oklahoma. They breed pretty far north of us. I'll show you a map in just a minute. But this is adult plumage, and they're fairly docile in the hand. I was a little worried because Swainson's warblers were the only birds that I had really taken from the net on a regular basis and banded, and then, sharp talons and things, and they're pretty docile. They just kind of grab onto the net, and that's the hard part right there. So, so it's not too bad. But remember that in real life, they are fierce predators. Even though they're very tiny, they take a lot of prey. They feed as they migrate. They feed all the time because they're very small, and with that surface area to volume ratio, they have to feed very frequently. They eat bats. They eat small rodents. We caught several that had fresh blood on their talons. And so they're definitely fish predators, even though, lucky for us, they're relatively easy to handle in terms of banding and taking measurements and things like that. So the range map for Northern Saw-whet owls, I don't know why the colors are so similar, and I apologize for that, but the year-round is the purpley color. So it's this top tier in Alaska, Canada, the northeastern United States, and then mountainous regions all the way down into Mexico. Okay, so that's year-round. And for a long time, we thought that that's where they were, and that's all there was to that story. But you'll notice that the next tier, these are all mixed up for some reason. I didn't make this map. This kind of medium blue here is sort of in different places than the year-round and is non-breeding, which would be fall and winter, early winter. And then non-breeding scarce is that last color of blue here. And that's where the whole state of Oklahoma falls. So non-breeding scarce, which basically means there's been a few records over the years. And that maps from the Bird of North America species account. And so here are those records. Maybe. Oh, sorry, just had a time lag. So the very first record, oh yeah, so they're cavity nesters, and this is, even though they don't, as far as we know, do this in Oklahoma, that's a Northern Saw-whet owl peeping out of a nest cavity. There are nest box study programs that are very successful that are going on in South Dakota and other parts of the northern United States, and also some in Canada as well. So a lot of people are studying the breeding biology of these little guys. And so these early reports, saw-whet owl nest with eggs from Tulsa actually, was reported in the Oologist. And that Morse is actually an egg collector. He was he collected eggs, he bought and sold eggs through this Oologist kind of magazine for people who did that. And there's no photographs or any sort of documentation and a lot of suspicion about whether or not this was actually a Northern Saw-whet owl. He's also quoted in Bent Life History as describing the nest and behavior of the adults, but those don't match what we now know about Northern Saw-whet owl biology. So again, that was just a repeat. He just repeated his story to Bent when Bent was writing those up. So this is sort of in a pale gray. The pale gray are either ones that are suspect for whatever reason or just not documented. So 1933 is the first documented. So by documented, I mean we have photographs or specimens in the form of skins, skeletons, something like that. And so the format's the same for the records that I have. It starts out with a date. And so notice the time of year. So this is in the fall, November 29th, 1933. I put the county, and if you're like me and don't know where all the counties in Oklahoma are, there's a map in the upper right-hand corner with that county highlighted. So you can kind of keep track of, okay, where is this? You just can't do the county thing, except for the ones I live in. The sex, if it's known, so this was a female. And some other information that might be pertinent or important or interesting. So this was collected by Miss Eleanor Henderson, turned over to someone else who, I guess it wasn't preserved well enough to use the skin, so they got the skeleton, and it's in the Kansas University collection. Long is the person who published this report in 1934. So this one was published. And this probably hit by a car thing you'll see several times. These little guys seem to get hit by cars, at least they used to. A lot of the records seem to probably be birds that flew out and got hit and then were stunned on the side of the road and found either dead or sometimes alive. The area, the description was that it was arid, no timber except for riparian shrubby trees. So since they're, sort of forest owls, that's interesting information. Okay, I won't spend that much time on every single one of them. In 1957, so a big gap there, one was shot in Guymon, in Texas County, another female. This one was found by school children who were playing in, I guess, what was the one tree in the schoolyard, and climbed up and found the owl. And it was daytime, so the owl was roosting. They went and got an adult who promptly shot the owl to document its being there, which, we might not know it was there if that hadn't happened, and that used to be legal. So, so the person who collected it was R.H. Davey, and it was published in Sutton, 1967. So still in the Panhandle. And this is so this one I think is also attributable to that Morse publication. So this is a May 10, 1965 date that's published in the Audubon Field Notes. And I managed to get a copy of that publication. It's very brief. It just says that the two records for egg dates, April 18th and May 3rd. No other description, nothing. I mean, it's just like 2 sentences in this magazine, Audubon Field Notes. So, and so Bent listed that too. When Bent did the life history for all the species, then that got repeated here too. It doesn't say that, but it matches. In 1969, the locations move a little bit. So there was one seen in Waukeeta in Grant County, December 24th. And so no documentation, which is why it's kind of grayed out there. And then November 11th, same year, Blaine County, a male killed by a car near Greenfield. This one was published by Lamb in 1970. So in 1978, so we're going through time pretty quickly here because there aren't that many records. In November, so in the fall, in Osage County, described as rolling grassland, no trees nearby, but fairly high clumps of deciduous shrubbery. The sex is unknown, which I don't really know the story behind that. Like, that story's not explained in any of the publications, and all the people who were involved are no longer with us. And so, if anybody knows any information, please let me know. But the bird had, again, been hit by a car and was dazed but not dead, and actually lived for several days, 10 days, so more than several. Ate a mouse every day, and they thought they were the owl was probably going to make a recovery, but they went in and it was dead. So the specimen was collected and prepared, and Osteen in 1980 wrote that up. So I don't know about the sex thing. Seems like you could figure that out if you had the owl in the hand. So, yeah, yeah. So, 1979, moving toward the central part of the state. Again, November 25th, Oklahoma County, north of Lake Hefner Dam, in a ravine with a large number of cedar trees. John Shackford is the one who saw this, and I've had many a conversation with him about this because it's my favorite Northern Saw-whet Owl story, pretty much bar none. He was scouting out Christmas bird count territories for birds the day before, and he walked into the ravine and thought, oh, I wonder if there's anything in here, and clapped his hands really hard, and a Northern Saw-whet owl flew out and perched on a limb. And so I keep trying to get him to teach me the special clap. And he says the only clapping he does these days is for me and my grad students, so I don't know. Anyway, it stayed around for a couple of days, and people took pictures of it and went and saw it, and so it was very well documented. And he also published information about it in 1983. In 1981, in Texas County near Guymon, this is another interesting one. So some kids are playing badminton, and the birdie goes into a tree. The kids climb the tree to get the badminton birdie, and they're like, oh, look, an owl, a little owl, a baby owl. And so they go get their parents, and their neighbors happen to be birders. And so they come over and identify it and take photographs. And again, we don't know where the photographs are, but photographs were taken. And that one was published by Schwent in 1982. 1984, S. Saltman, this is a PERSCOM mentioned in one of the other articles, said that Northern Saw-whet Owl answered a tape call 4 different times. So that's not published per se, it's mentioned as a PERSCOM. In 1985 in Tulsa County again, so back here, November 3rd, so lots of these are from November, at the Air National Guard Armory, an owl was found, rehabilitated and released by Berta and Bill Snell, and this is in the Tulsa Audubon Society records. So we got that via gossip and email documentation. So a lot of word of mouth information sometimes when you're doing these things, although for the really old records, of course, that doesn't work so well. 1994 in January, so January 1, that's an interesting date, in a stand in Cimarron County, a stand of ponderosa pines 8 feet high, perched on a limb, is this Northern Saw-whet Owl. You can see pretty clearly there. So this was another Christmas bird count find. So I think it was during the count, and they'd always meant to go check out those ponderosa pines, and they did, and boom, Northern Saw-whet Owl. So this one was published in the OOS Bulletin in 1994, and with the photograph and everything. So in 2002, Osage County, one was heard on the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve Christmas bird count in the count circle, but off the preserve. Tried to find out who it was. If any of you know, let me know. So January 9th, 2007, also Osage County, also at the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve, a riparian forest along Sand Creek. A specimen was found dead, but was not collected. Photographs were taken, and those photographs cannot be located right now. So, you know, still working on this one as well. So, 2015, getting close to modern times. Osage County, Gila Reservoir, CBC, 2 miles west of Copan Spillway, heard on a Christmas bird count by Don Wolf. There's only one, for each of these incidents, there's one owl, and they're all just sort of, nobody was really looking for Northern Saw-whet Owls. They were just sort of scouting for Christmas bird count, or driving down the road and saw an owl, or going to get the badminton birdie, or, you know, really random finds. So anecdotal reports of single owls. And they lie between November 3rd and January 29th, which is sort of, you know, fall, early winter. And then the April and May dates are super suspect. Like, most people who study these owls don't believe that those were actually saw-whet owls. So it covers, I'll show you a map in a minute, but it covers the northern half of the state from east to west. Adorable owl pictures. And so I just stuck an owl. I put an owl on it. If it's a county that had a record, and they're listed down there with dates. And so that's what the picture looks like. And then here's Cherokee County, where Tahlequah is. And so that made me wonder if perhaps we were part of that migration. This is the same information overlaid on a ecoregions map. And you can see, well, you don't have to try too hard because I put a little box around all the different ecoregions. So just to say that ecoregion doesn't seem to matter. It may be more of a micro kind of thing, so that if there's forest, then they're awesome. And if there's not forest per se, then they may follow riparian forest corridors or something like that. It's certainly on a broad scale, it doesn't seem to matter in terms of these movements. So historically, NICE in 1931 in Birds of Oklahoma doesn't list the saw-whet at all. In Oklahoma Birds, Sutton's 1967 summary, it's listed as a rare visitant. A straggler in Oklahoma Bird Life by Baumgartner and Baumgartner. And the date guide for Oklahoma Birds listed but without dates, although Dan assures me that that's going to change. So you can see that, people just didn't know. They were just it was super unknown that these birds were here, and certainly here in any sort of numbers. And so the question, do Northern Saw-whet owls move through Oklahoma in the fall on a regular basis, was a pretty good question. And so I applied for funding and permits and all the things you need. And these are some of the people that were involved. So Northeastern State University, of course, helped us get started. The Nickel Preserve, Nature Conservancy Nickel Preserve, granted us permission to work on their property, which was a huge boon. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service banding permits and also state permits were obtained. I found a graduate student. Actually, she was eagerly waiting for the news that the grant was funded so that she could start the work. Abby Ramirez, some of you have heard her speak, and an undergraduate student, Laura Corser, who's been with the project from the very start as well. And even though she's working full time, she's going to be not volunteering, but still contributing this field season. So that's us, the Owl Gals. That's daytime, so obviously we're on our way to set up. So you have to get there before sunset, you have to have your headlamps, you have to have batteries and extra batteries. Now, I have done all of my professional field work up to this point, like at this point. In the daytime, I start when it's dark, but it gets light pretty quick, in the summer. So working in the dark when it's very cold was and at night, because not so much a night owl, although I was then, So it was a really different experience. But we're really excited about it. At this point, we haven't found any owls. This is the net lane that we set up in the first season. It's up on a pine ridge, and we just look for a really nice, straight, clear path through the pine trees that we didn't have to cut down any trees or anything. And it's clear now. When the leaves fall, this was still pretty early. We do have to clean them out of the nets as they blow in there. And also sweep them out from under the nets or whatever. But basically it was a pretty easy setup. The hard part was getting the mist nets in the ground because it's pretty rocky. But it's about 150 feet straight line along the ridge with about 9 feet up from the ground, almost to the ground to 9 feet. And then the playback that we used was a predator call, so it was really loud. We followed, actually, Project Owlnet is a set of standardized protocol. We used the protocols from Project Owlnet so that our data could be combined with other banding stations data to answer broad landscape type questions about these owls' movements. And it's constant effort, so we get up there, open up the nets, and 30 minutes after sunset, turn on the playback. So the playback call is the toot toot call of a Northern Saw-whet owl. It's just sort of toot 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 toot, really loud, really repetitive, and then there's a whine call in there that I just can't make. It must be just an owl thing. But the toot toot thing is pretty easy to do. We could all do it, but anyway, so we turn that on, and the idea is that they're migrating at night, they roost during the day, so if they're moving through our area, they will hear it and hopefully investigate. Now this is a technique that's been used by a lot of people I know, to see Northern Saw-whet owls in Oklahoma, and they failed. It's actually loud enough that we can hear it when we get back down to the banding station, which is a bunk room. But we can open the door, stick our ears out, and see if the batteries have died or not, if we're worried about the condition of the batteries from the warmth of the banding station. And so it gets cold out there. From 30 minutes after sunset until at least midnight. So midnight is the last check. And we do it every hour. And then, you know, if we have an owl, then I'm skipping ahead, but we have to process it. So, okay, so I think I have covered all of that.
All play continuously?
Yes.
Doesn't go on and off? It's continuous.
Oh, well, I mean, there's pauses in the recording, like sort of natural pauses. So it's a recording with a little silence, and yeah. So it's not, I don't really know what they do in nature, but there are some pauses. Yeah. Oh, I have the thing in here. I just don't know if it'll work. And so this is the picky tuck. It's yellow, so summer tanager call. It's how we got back and forth to that station quickly enough. It's up a really pretty steep ridge, so if we'd had to run up it, we'd be in great shape. But I don't think we'd ever have time to band the owls. I don't think I'm even going to try to play it since you guys just heard that one, or maybe at the end we can try in case it collapses the whole thing. So we caught our first owl on November the 4th, and there it is. Yeah. So we kept track of which net. We had 5 nets, so net 1, 2, 3, you know, in sequence, and then which pocket, they were numbered as well, and from which direction they flew in. So I'm skipping all the way to the end here because I have a whole nother season to tell you about. So over the entire season, we captured 18. We were just so excited about the first one, just like, yay, they're really here, they're really moving through. And so we confirmed that. And this greatly increased the number of records for Oklahoma because you saw them before. And more importantly, it established that Northern Saw-whet owls do in fact move through at least northeastern Oklahoma, and probably the rest of it as well if people just would set up those banding stations and see, but in significant numbers in the fall. I consider 18 to be a pretty significant number given that the records were so low prior to this effort. It's just that they're really quiet. They migrate at night. They're very quiet. They don't respond to playback vocally, at least not most of the time. So a lot of birds, if you do playback, they'll call back in response to the playback. And Northern Saw-whet owls hardly ever do. But what they apparently will do is investigate a call and fly into the net, and then you know they're there, and that's it. It's just kind of grueling to go through the process of documenting it.
Did you have any recaptures?
We did, and I'm just about to get to a map of that. This is a photograph taken by Steve Metz during our first season. Not on the preserve, but near the preserve. I talked to him about it a couple of weeks ago. He was kind of close to the Illinois River and not too many miles away from where we were doing our study. So that's a pretty majestic picture. Their eyes vary from really bright lemony yellow to orange. So there's a little bit of color variation in their eyes, but nobody really knows why. So this is a daytime photograph, and it's not our nets. But for those of you who are not familiar with nets, this is what they look like. And so they have these pockets where the net dips down. And so if the bird goes in, they drop into that pocket. And so that's how we take our measurements. So it becomes a problem, though, because of the way these nets work. I mean, owls have really good vision. And so that pine ridge, there's not much cover. And so on a really bright night, like a full moon, and if the wind's blowing, those pockets just become air sacs. They just blow straight out. And so they're really visible. So windy nights are hard on us. And until all the leaves are down, leaves are hard on us because they blow into the nets, and getting a leaf out is almost as hard as getting an owl out. We also get bats, and that's a totally different story.
Are those nets white or black?
Well, I don't know about these, but most of them are black. They just reflect, I think, when people take pictures. I could go back to ours are black. Yeah, so. But they're still pretty visible if the wind's blowing or on a bright night, and I suspect owls can see better than me. And if I can see them, you know, I'm sure the owls can. So once we capture the owls, we weigh them. So there's an owl in this little bag, so you weigh it. She's holding that wrong. She always says, don't put that picture in there, I'm holding the scale wrong. But she looks so happy, I still do it. So we weigh the owl in the bag. Then once we release the owl, then we weigh the bag to see how much it weighs. And owls are dimorphic, so the males are considerably smaller sometimes than the females. I'll show you a photo in just a moment. And then we band them. So here are the numbered Fish and Wildlife bands. After we dropped them a few times and had to reorder them, Abby crocheted a little string that they don't slide off of. And so that's what we used after that. So that's Abby, my graduate student, and that's Laura, the undergraduate student who worked on it. It was just the three of us the first year. So this is actually Mitchell Pruitt holding a male and a female. And so he captured those two at the same time at a site over in Arkansas. And it's pretty striking, and Mitchell's super photogenic. So, but it does give you a really good idea of how you can sometimes, just size alone, we can weight and wing chord, we can tell males from females almost all the time. And so we do weight, wing chord, and then this is Abby banding. So just to give you, look, see, she's just sort of just holding the owl in the palm of her hand. They're not fighters. Now we try to process these owls as fast as we can and get them back out the door as soon as possible. So we try to just go through the steps very quickly and then release them. And because we have to work in a light situation, because we have to see what we're doing, we hold them for just a minute outside in the darkness and sort of just let them fly when they're ready. And they do. So. And a lot of times what we figured out really fast is if they didn't have something to grip, it would be your finger or your arm. And so we'd give them the bag to hold on to, and that worked out really well. These feathers look like little porcupine quills or something, but they're so soft. They're not pokey at all. So she's feeling the flight muscles to see if there's a lot of muscle or not. And so then under their wing pits, we call them, they have fat deposits or not, so we can check their condition based on how much muscle and how much fat they have. And then this is amazing. You can age them using black lights in the dark. So we just buy black light, UV lights, flashlights from Walmart, and turn off the lights and then open up their wings. And the feathers contain a pigment called porphyrin, which fluoresces hot pink. So if those are new feathers, which they are, all of them, so that's a hatch year bird. So that's a bird that was hatched that year in 2016, somewhere north of us, and then flew to Oklahoma and then flew into our nets. so from somewhere north of us. And so I'll show you how to age. We can only age up to a certain year. So here's hatch year again. I can't quite reach it, but you can see they're all pink all the way across. And then the second year, their porphyrins have worn off. So these are feathers from the previous year, and these are new feathers, new flight feathers. And so you have two different size age classes of feathers, which means it's a second year bird. And then this bird, so these are old, these are, oh, so these are old, sorry. These are new. And then you've got some that are half and half. So that's after second year, but you don't really know. After that point, the molt cycle always looks the same. And so you don't know how old they are. Unless they're banded, and then you can check banding, like when were they banded, how old were they then, and figure that out. Their legs, actually, they have like really, it looks like they're wearing little feather puffy pants. And if you shine the light and just sort of blow their leg feathers, their whole leg, all their legs just show bright hot pink. So it's super cute. Yeah. We took photographs of all of them to get their facial patterns. And so we have a Facebook page. It's Oklahoma Northern Saw-whet Owls or something like that. And it has photographs of all of the owls that have been captured and banded. And then there's an example. So there's a lot of variation, and some of them look really sad, like angry, like, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna get ya. Like, especially that one, like maybe this one. And then other ones, you know, they're like, hey. But so they go sort of from dark to light, sort of, kind of. I mean, it was hard for me to picture it, but there's a lot of variation in how much white there is on their faces. And you can also see a little bit of difference in eye color, although it's a little harder to tell, so. We collected feathers for isotope analysis that we shared with other researchers who are working on a project to look at migratory movements and where the feathers are produced to get more information. And so in that, we got a total of 18 owls from November 4th to November 20th on just 8 nights. So we went out for 23 nights that first season, but only captured owls on 8 of those. So you can see that many nights were owl-free. So people who came out to see owls, you know, went out every hour for hours and hours and hours, and, you know, no owls. So it's still fun, but it's not quite as fun without the owls. But that's the way it goes. It went that way again last year. So the sex ratio was 14 female, 4 males. 11 of the birds were hatch year, 4 were second year, and 3 were after second year. That's a typical pattern that people who look for saw-whet owls that are moving south during the fall find, that most of the birds, most of the time, are hatch year females. So the idea is that males who have territories stay and defend those territories throughout the non-breeding season and are still there once the breeding season starts up. Whereas perhaps females and young males who may not have a chance to compete, get a chance to compete for breeding sites, can shift their distribution a little further south where the weather's a little more friendly and maybe it's a little bit easier to find food. So it's not a true migration in the sense that everybody leaves and goes somewhere. You know, we're used to range maps where here's the breeding range, here's the winter range. This is more like, here's where they are all year long, and then some of them go here, and then some of them go a little further. And we're really trying to work that out with studies like this. Here's the recapture data. So this is our study site, and obviously we caught them there. So all roads lead to us in terms of recaptures. Those are their banding numbers, and so one of them was captured on November the 5th. 2016, it was a second-year female banded near Port Rowan, Ontario, Canada on 10/14/2015, so the previous year. She was banded in Ontario, and then she made a trip maybe, or we don't know. We don't know what she did, and then we caught her the next year. The next one, banding number 40116, was captured on 11/6, the very next day. We thought we were going to get a whole lot of recaptures. It was a hatch year male banded near Duluth, Minnesota on 9/30/2016. So that was a hatch year male that was banded, poor guy, and then we caught him again as he moved south. So he'd been caught twice at that point. Same season, and not too many days apart, really. Yeah. So those are the movements on that map. Those were the only recaptures that we got. And so, but yeah, we got a new county. So there's more than 30 records in Oklahoma now. And we added Cherokee County to the list. 2 new ecoregions, not that it matters probably, right? We don't know if that matters. And then I thought I would show you this. This is Project Owlnet's banding station map, which we aren't on yet. They're trying to get new people. They have enough people starting up banding stations. They're having a hard time keeping up with keeping the map up to date. But I sort of overlay, this is sort of the non-breeding and non-breeding scarce lines from that other map. And you can see that there are very few stations, banding stations. And there's a reason for that. It's a lot of work for a little bit of data. So I used to work on Swainson's warblers for a long time. They hang out in brambly, snake-infested, tick-infested swamps. And, redneck infested sometimes. So a lot of years, I got sticks in the eye, I got Lyme disease, I got, all kinds of things. It was wonderful, though. I enjoyed it a lot. And in the off season, which is still the off season, I do go out and try to chase American woodcock around to watch their displays. People come out to see the displays. Sometimes it's a good year, sometimes it's not. And then I took up Northern Saw-whet Owl work, and Dr. Charles Brown, who's here on the front row tonight, teases me. He tells me that I pick the cryptic, difficult to study little brown birds that live in forests. And then that's what I go for. And I think he's onto something. I hadn't really thought about it too much, but then this owl thing came along and I was like, wow, I think he's right. So this is our station. This is what we kind of consider to be our sister station. It's over in it's in the Arkansas Ozark National Forest. I'll show you on a better map. And then they also have an occasional team that goes out a little further east in Arkansas. And then we have, there's some banding stations in Missouri. Some of you are familiar with some of those. And so that just shows you that they're not very many people getting data about this stuff. And so that makes every data point that much more precious. Our hope is that some of the people who see our talk are inspired to go out every night for 7 to 8 weeks. From sunset until midnight, trying to get more data points for our map for Oklahoma. Okay, so there's just not that many. There may be a few more than this. I have a friend who's in Louisiana who went out several times and didn't catch any, but she had some logistics kind of problems. So, okay, so in 2017, last year, since we had some issues in the 2016 season with wind blowing the nets, and we were also worried that the nets were visible on brightly lit nights, we set up a new banding lane, and there's a lot of deciduous. Ideally, it would have been nice if we had a cedar grove or something, but most of the vegetation is deciduous if it's close enough for us to get to. So it can't be too far away. We don't have time to check the nets, or we freeze to death, and they find us when it thaws out. So we picked a topographically protected habitat. So basically, it was a valley. I want kind of a steep valley. If you guys are familiar with Ozark topography, they have these really steep, narrow, sort of V-shaped valleys. Hollers, people have all sorts of names for them, yeah. Holler's better than valley, I admit. Okay, and then there was this other sort of ridge protecting the opening of the holler, right? So it was a pretty protected place from the wind, but also from the moonlight, just because there was height. It wasn't up on the top of a ridge, but open. And so we set up a net there, and to see does it make a difference, right? So this is actually, I'm not gonna, and actually we don't have a lot of answers yet, because this is mostly what Abby's master's thesis is about. And she's doing another field season this fall because we need more data. So, but I will tell you what we found. We had 20 total captures, and we had 3 recaptures last year. one from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, one from Duluth, Minnesota, and one from Huntsville, Arkansas. The one from Huntsville was from the Arkansas station, and we teased Mitchell that they didn't like Arkansas, so they came to Oklahoma. Yeah, because he hasn't caught any of our owls. So I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So let's see. Hatch year, again, was a large category, but we actually had the same number of after second year birds last year. And then 6 second year birds. Then female, majority were female, a few males, and a few unknowns. So the unknown ones fall right in the middle of the weight. So you check the weight, then you check the wing chord, but it can still be unknown. So like unless you dissect the owl, and we weren't going to do that. So that's where that unknown category comes in. So before our project, there were fewer than 14 records for the entire state ever. We added 38 new records in 2 years, supposed to be an S there, as well as new information about timing and demographics of these migratory movements. The effect of wind and solar elimination, or sorry, not solar, lunar elimination on whether or not you actually capture the owls, which is important because if you're going to put this much time and energy into trying to figure out what the owls are doing, if you can figure out a better way to do it, then yeah, that would be great. So that sample, we couldn't tell. We just didn't, we only did it the second season, so this field season will be a continuation of the comparison between the two. So on a dark, like a either cloudy or new moon situation with no wind, the two sites should be equal. But if you think about it, the audio lure on a quiet, non-windy night will carry much further. And so the one on the Pine Ridge versus the one in the valley might actually have an advantage. And so we have to measure how loud our audio lures are from various distances under different conditions to try to sort of tease that out a little bit because this definitely could potentially be a confounding factor. If we can hear it from this, they're pretty far apart and there's some barriers, some ridge barriers in between them. But we need to take those measurements to see. And so the study will continue. It's already continued. It's already started in October. And I haven't gotten any calls yet, so they probably haven't caught the first owl yet. The person who got the first call from the very first owl, and it was actually a text, is in this room tonight. Yeah. So when we started this project, there were some people who were like, "You're not going to find any owls. You're not going to find any Northern Saw-whet owls. It's a big waste of time." And I'm like, "Okay, when I do, you'll be the first person. I'm going to send you a text." How late at night was it, Charles Brown? Actually, I don't think it sent. We get a really terrible signal, and so I think I sent it later. I was like, "Oh no, it didn't send," and I sent it again. But he was the very first person who should have known about it. The very first person before anybody else. So anyway, these are actually, I thought you guys might be interested in seeing. These are migration pathways to the Ozarks. So we collaborate with the Arkansas team and the Missouri teams, and we've done a couple of presentations, most recently at the International Ornithological Congress in Vancouver about migratory movements through the Ozark region. And so they're going to various places. Oklahoma, it only had I think they're overlapping a little bit. That's us, that's Arkansas, they're in white, and Missouri's all in black. So they're coming from the Great Lakes region. But we're in eastern Oklahoma, so I wonder what would happen if someone did, the Panhandle. We'll have to see. And then thanks to Northeastern State, this is the one that's so cute. This was our first owl, and we weren't quite sure, so we're trying to take him out of the bag, and we're like, and he looks so cute. We just had to take a picture. So we figured out how to hold owls eventually. So there's Laura and there's Abby. Everybody looks really happy. There's no picture of me with an owl. I took the pictures of everybody else with owls. So John Nickel actually donated private donations to the project. So he made possible the second net lane. People volunteered, people brought us snacks, and then of course thanks for all the owls that flew into our nets. Possibly they would have avoided that, but they didn't. And then the reason this all got started actually was I went to a joint meeting of the Oklahoma Ornithological Society when I was still president, and the Arkansas Audubon Society. It was in 2015. And Mitchell and Kim Smith, Dr. Kim Smith, ornithologist at the University of Arkansas, had caught one owl. So they set up nets, they caught one owl, but oh my gosh, did it set the owl fever loose, you know? And so they gave a presentation about the owl they caught that year. They were so excited, you know? They were the banquet speakers, guys. So they did the whole history. They did the history of the Northern Saw-whet Owl in Arkansas, and then we caught this owl. So anyway, there they are. And Kim was an instructor when I was in grad school there. So he was on my committee eventually. It's a long story. I took classes with him when I was an undergrad, or when I was a graduate student rather. And then stayed in touch, but this was the first project that we really collaborated on. When I went to this meeting, I was like, this is so exciting. He said, Mia, you should set up a banding station in Oklahoma. You should totally do it like right now, you know. And I was just like, I don't know, Kim. And it's at night and it's, you know, cold. And he goes, no, just do it. And I was just like, okay, well, it sounds pretty exciting. And then Mitchell tried to talk. So finally, you know, I'm like, okay, yeah, it sounds great. Let's do it. And so here's their station. I'm not sure. Oh, here it is, the Red Star. So here is their station and our station kind of. It's less than 70 miles as the Northern Saw-whet Owl flies. And an extra big thanks because we lost Kim this spring. He passed away unexpectedly while getting ready to go to the AOS meeting in April. His grad student Mitchell is continuing his field season this fall, and we're going to continue to collaborate. It's what Kim would want us to do, and we're really going to miss him. So, are you about to cut me off?
I think so.
Okay. Thanks.